We are finally back with some more map editor magic. Feels good, guys. I honestly haven't had a chance to work on my map at all the past going on like 2 weeks now. I think it's been almost 2 weeks. So it was great to sit down today. Had a lot of time to just get a lot of work done and then start getting back into my map. In fact, if you guys follow me on the community side of the page for YouTube and you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw I posted the waterfall with the bridge. That's actually all I had done this morning. And I just put like an hour's worth of work into starting to brainstorm and build out more of the map, mainly the vegetation and terraforming a lot of the map. And now I'm like in my brainstorming phase. I've got like a general idea where I want the enemy base to be for at least a couple, maybe one of the bounty targets. I want to have maybe 4 bounty targets in total, but that number could change as we start to build things out here. So I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride as we brainstorm a little bit, and I'll kind of show you guys how I brainstorm my ideas and how things like the river get created and how I come up with something like this little mountain ridge here, which is going to get a lot more work done to it, because I think that's my favorite part of building maps, is just kind of free form expression, right? Just like get in there, pick a spot on the map, decide you don't like it, and then figure out what you're going to do about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're just going to fool around and see if we can't fix up some smaller pieces of the map. Hopefully that will inspire you guys a little bit, help you with brainstorming on some of your creations to get that more natural look that I always like to aim for, if that's what you're going for anyway. And also to really focus on scaling. I really want to stress that again. You know, when we built the waterfall, we talked about scaling, right? Scaling being very important, making sure that the map doesn't feel like you're a very small ant-sized person, and also making sure that it doesn't feel like you're a giant, because even when you have trees for perspective, you could still do that with the spacing of a lot of things. So why don't we hop down to our little path here. This is just like the very brief setup we've got going here leading into what is going to be the enemy base, and we can just kind of take another look at our waterfall, take a look at what's going on with this portion of the river right here, because I would like to do a little bit more work around this, and you can kind of get an idea as to what I'm talking about with scaling. So right off the bat, I don't like all of this open flat space. I don't like it. It's just, to me, even if it's something that could exist somewhere, it feels unnatural to me, and I want to do things to kind of bring it to life a little bit more. And also, we want to use this area of the river here, this side of the riverbed, to to almost kind of hide this outpost, to give it a bit of concealment, to make it more difficult for the player to push the outpost. If we leave it open like this, the player can just stand on this like hill over here, pull out their binoculars, and scan all the targets inside. Probably find their bounties, no big deal, right? Now, obviously, we're going to have more buildings in there, but again, I like to build up the riverbed. We'll do some things with that. And you can see I actually already did a little bit of that on this side. So there were 2 things that happened when I came down from the waterfall. Let's actually hop up to the waterfall there. I just got done like sort of recarving the river, figuring out where I wanted things. I put a bunch of the trees down. This was like 15 minutes ago only. And I came right up here and I said, all right, let's see what the river looks like from the top of the waterfall. And the first thing I noticed was that this area was really flat. So what I actually did there was I cut this sort of cliffside off and had this turn into like a bit of a hill. I'm still thinking maybe I'll build this into an actual mountain, and we'll actually have the mountain, the cliff texture there like we did on the other side there, and make this an even bigger detail with maybe some sort of a fun like a cave built into it or something like that. For now, I wanted to get rid of that flatness. I wanted to get rid of that lack of scale that made it feel just like this big open barren area. So we kind of put a hill in there. It needs to be smoothed out a little bit more, but again, brought us down into there, and it just looked far more natural when I came over here, and I was like, okay, that just seems more organic. The same thing on this side, felt a little flat. I roughed it up in there a little bit, and then more importantly, over there, that's where we really did some work. Let's actually hop out of the editor, and we'll take off the vegetation just so you guys can see this sort of the terrain changes I've made here. So again, just a small hill. You know, we could probably smooth this down a little bit more. Just give the, give the shoreline a little bit of life. Bring it to life. You know, we want that shoreline to feel like it's a part of a real location, like an adventure that you'd like to go on, not just some flat thing that happens to exist at the edge of a river. You know, we want to bring it to life. We got to paint some magic into it, if you will. And so you guys remember the river was actually going straight out the back here, and the same thing straight out the front here, and I realized, well, I don't really want to do that. I do want to disguise the river in one way or another, so I built up the edges of the map a lot more. Got us, some higher elevation where we can sort of disguise and blend the map itself into the backdrop better. I curved the river around there, and you can see I just kind of went and just made the piece of the lake we were using very large. The player's not going to see any of that, so I'm not super concerned about it. And somebody pointed out, I need to correct myself on one of these things here. When we do our map validation, these are just warnings. You don't actually have to worry about these. You can build the map without them. The red markers are what you need to concern yourself with. So if you have a map going, don't worry about those warning markers. They're just there to remind you, like, hey, you might have lost a piece under the terrain or something like that. A big thank you to everyone who has submitted like small little bits of feedback on some of the more deep systems in the game that maybe I haven't even paid attention to. It's been really helpful to a lot of different people, and I really appreciate that. So I put the curve in there, was like, oh, you know, we'll do sort of a rock face here with a mountain, so this is all going to get built out more. Haven't actually even finished working on this. You can see we've got loose pieces hanging all over the place. But then, you know, really started to focus on the river again, bringing the river to life, you know, carving some more edges into it, and just making it feel a bit more natural. Now, one of the things I always do when I start to build a base, which was I just kind of started popping some things down to, again, focus on scale and figure out where I want things, how many buildings I'm going to want, how much of an area do I want open. I'll just flatten that area out. It's important that you create a super flat surface to work with when you're placing buildings, because you can have a lot of issues with the terrain actually clipping through the bottom of the buildings and causing a lot of unnecessary difficulties. So I'll flatten the whole area out. We can build around it, go back, smooth off all of the edges that we might have left, like the one behind this, turn that into a feature, maybe a bit of a hill or something with some dirt on it. And then we can go back and rough in between all of the buildings. So if you're having trouble with your buildings, having weird stuff in them, or just terrain changes, honestly, just flatten out your building areas, and then you can come back and clear them up a little bit more. But here you can see some more of the terrain deformation we did. Again, you know, kind of trying to bring this hillside to life a little bit here. I do have to go back, and I'll probably put a little bit more cliff in some of this. A lot of details that we can eventually add. But I've been looking at this waterfall, and I'm really not happy with this flat spot right here. So why don't we turn that brainstorm into something? Let's turn our vegetation back on just so we can get an idea of where our vegetation is. And I just, you know, it just kind of feels bland, right? So if we come up here, go into our in-game view, you know, we've got the hillside here, right? We've got this all blending into what could eventually be a little bit of a mountain, a little bit of a cliff, if you will. When you look over there, it's just like barren for days, right? I feel like since we've got these rocks here, why don't we build up this side of the waterfall and make a feature out of it? You know, again, something that's going to break up the player's line of sight and bring this area to life a little bit more. I'm thinking we just extend the rocks that we already have here to make this seem a bit more natural, as if this was actually a cliff here, and the erosion, you know, things just kind of started to chew through it. We got this waterfall, a lot of the terrain broke away, the rocks disappeared, and over time it turned into dirt. So we're going to go into our objects, let's go into nature. We're using currently intermittent fasting on my brain, intermittent rocks. So there we go, we got 40 to choose from, and we've got our big medium ones. Our medium ones are actually pretty large in some cases. We got a really nice flat piece here that I kind of like. Maybe we'll work with that. Let's see what that looks like. Let's lay that down. We'll rotate it to kind of blend in with the surface we already have here, right? So let's push this, maybe get a little bit more rotation on it. I'd like to actually leave that tree there if we can, so no reason to kill off our poor little tree. He's doing his thing to bring this to life a little bit, you know, and I could see a little tree grow in there in between a rock and a hard place, quite literally, for a tree. Not too shabby. There we go. That looks good. You know, we can blend some more rocks into the bottom later here, but let's take a look at maybe what we want to do up here to make this all feel a bit more natural. Maybe let's get some other rocks on top of it and see if we can actually just build up a bit of a cliff surface here. See how that looks. We don't want to use any of the open back rocks, but maybe if we get some of the other large rocks or medium rocks in here, yeah, you know, we might be able to work with that. I don't want something so square. I kind of want something, yeah, rounded to sort of go with this this bottom rock there. That looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Doesn't look too shabby. Yeah, there we go. Build that up a little bit. We could do the same thing on the other side here. And then out of nowhere, we got a nice little rock formation. Looks really natural. Again, kind of help bring this area of the map to life a little bit more, and more importantly, just break up the player's line of sight. I like environments that feel kind of claustrophobic. It's just a personal thing. You might want a map that's got a little bit more open. And I think it's also important to consider leaving some open areas. Not only is that going to help with limiting the number of trees you use, but that could create intentional lines of sight that maybe highlight another location that you might want the player to go to. Just another small feature that you build in, right? We got to get this tree out of here, though. That poor tree can't be growing in there. Get ourselves a couple more trees baked back in here, though. Let's do our tall aspens right up against the edge there. There we go. That looks good. And again, maybe we just get a few smaller rocks in here. Let's go to down to our medium again. Build something in along here. What do we got going for us? This looks like it might actually work out okay. And maybe, no, you know what? I don't like that one. I don't like that one. I don't like that one either. The problem is what we got going on here. We might just have to really rethink this and kind of rebuild. You know what? That actually might work. Hold on a second. Let's just see what this looks like. The beauty of map editors like this, right, is like it doesn't take a long time to put a rock down. So do yourself a favor. If you even think something's going to look good, or if you think something's going to turn out exactly the way you wanted it to, just go for it. I'm actually okay with that. I'll probably put some more rocks down below, but for now, for the sake of moving on to something else, we'll keep that. And I just like that formation as a whole. I think what I might do is, you know, maybe come in here, get some more dirt on there, maybe get rid of the grass and kind of maybe even build up some tall grass around the rock itself. You know, we can go in with an individual grass object there and start to build that up and make that look nice. I think what I'd like to do is just put a little bit of a bump on this, though, and kind of, you know, raise the terrain a little bit as well. Just make that, again, seem a little bit more natural flowing into that, and then we can just smooth it back out to get the effect that we want. And now, oh, look at that. We got to fix our river, too. I totally screwed it up. I almost killed our river. Just slide that over. I have it, like, all the way into the map at this point. Thank you so much for that tip, by the way, whoever it was who did that. I can't remember your username, but I was going so far out of my way to make those things work, not realizing that you could still publish it without that. So there we go. That looks a million times better. That area in there still maybe looks a little flat. Maybe we'll put a few smaller rocks coming off the side again. We can put some bushes in there to bring that to life a little bit more. I'm nitpicking, but that's just kind of how I like to build my maps. But in general, I'm really happy with that. Now we've got, again, over here, we got a line of sight that is open that we want. You know, this could be a great spot for the player to maybe come take a shot with their sniper rifle. And then we turn around and we kind of break things up, you know. We're building adventures here, right? Or we want to build an adventure even though it's just going to be a bounty mission, a lowly bounty mission. We want the player to have as much fun as they possibly can there. We could spend all day doing this, I'm going to be honest, guys, but that's the big thing for me when it comes to brainstorming, is just pick an area of the map, decide you don't like it, and then ask yourself how you can make it better. What can I do to improve that area? What do I want to add? Is it a rock? Is it a tree? And just experiment with things. Almost all of the ideas that I come up with are based off of me just saying, I don't like that, and then trying a bunch of things until I find the thing that really clicks with me. You know, for example, at the edge of this bridge here, I think it's kind of, you know, lonely, right? It's just a bridge. We need to put some rocks around here, maybe build up this surface a little bit. What do we got? We could even put a rock in the middle of the river. You know, we got these sort of smaller rocks, or even some of the medium rocks with a nice point on them, and we can kind of build it up as if the river is sort of eroded away around it, you know, and create a bit of a nice little environment there. I like the idea of sort of rocks in the middle of rivers, if that sounds like anything reasonable. I do, though. There's just something about like that last standing piece of, you know, the old age, potentially something that's 20, 30,000 years old. The river's kind of eroded its way around it, but that rock has remained standing. So, you know, experiment with stuff like that. I really would like to get something over here to kind of break this up. That's the one last thing I think I want to do today. Just it's got to figure out, you know, where are we going to put it? Where's it going to look good, right? We do want it on this side of the river. I'm not too concerned with this side right now. We can come back more about that, but I want to see how I can break up this side of the river, make things feel a bit more natural. So maybe this rock lives right here, and it cuts down into the side there. And so we got a little passageway that's created for the player if they swim across coming up there. But that's not enough. We need some other details going on here. So let's take a look at our smaller rocks. And we got like a medium rock here that we can cut into that. It's a little bit too big, actually. I think we'll go with an actual small rock. Let's look down at our small rocks here. Oh, you see, I like that one. That can create like a really interesting looking piece of the environment. And we bring that over, cut that down into here as well. And don't be afraid to just bury rocks halfway under the ground, you know, to get the look that you want. That's the big thing for me, is like, okay, well, maybe I only want to use half of that rock. Maybe I want the rest of that rock to be underground, and I just want like a certain piece of it to create the effect I'm looking for. And there we have it. I like that. Maybe we even rotate it like this and make it almost flush with the river on this side, so it looks as if it's eroded perfectly flat. There we go. I like that a lot. I'm really into that. And then maybe we just get a few more rocks around there, you know, make this a surface that, again, felt like it was eroded over a long period of time. So we get a little rock pile going here. Rotate that how we see fit. And with these rock piles, since they're such wide pieces, and since they're, you know, the pieces are individually spaced out, again, don't be afraid to, like, just bury even half the rocks. So just use the rocks you want to get, and to make sure that your other rocks are flush. So you have to be careful. Sometimes it can look bad, but if you do it right, yeah, I'm good with that, you know? And then again, maybe we build up some brush around that, and eventually I want to have most of this pretty well cleared out. I do like the idea of taking this area here and maybe making this shallow with a bit of a rapid, so we'll have a lot of rocks in the water, kind of like we did on that other map. And that'll, again, will bring this area to life and also give the player an alternative crossing method. So they can cross in the shallows, they can cross in the bridge down this way, you know, give them multiple areas of entry if they decide to sort of just forge across the river to take on the outpost and their bounties. A lot of work to be done on this map, guys, but hopefully you had some fun brainstorming with me today. No specific tutorials apart from me really stressing the importance of scale, and you know, also just kind of think about the places you've been in the real world, right? Think about some of your outdoor outings and ask yourself, what were some of the most memorable things about those places? You know, I imagine most of you have been to the outdoors at some point in time. You know, try and imagine what that looked like, what that dirt path looked like that you walked down, that waterfall you visited, that forest you went to, and use those memories for inspiration, if even roughly, to come up with, you know, the ideas for scaling and stuff like that, and then go wild from there. And just, again, if you don't like it, take a look at it. What don't I like about this? And how can I turn it into something that makes me say, ooh, that looks nice? That's how I do things in a nutshell. If you guys have any other questions for me, anything you'd like to see in future videos, you know, as we're working on this map, if there's a specific part of this map or of designing a map that you'd like to see me focus on, not maybe as a standalone video, but just something you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes like this, feel free to throw it down in the comment section below. Huge reminder, guys, I've got brand new merch out as well. The Bring Your Own Beard merch that I just worked on. You can check that out over on Design by Humans. And of course, any purchases you make on that will give me a cut of the profits and support the channel directly. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you tomorrow for another double feature. We did Warframe and Far Cry today. Tomorrow we're doing Radical Heights and Titanfall 2, playing a bit of catch up. And I'll see you then.
You have been brought here for a purpose, the most important task of your lives.